Hello, 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 and welcome to the Blue Oval Podcast. I am Ben Weissel, and joining me, as always, Garrett Allen. How's it going, man?
Ben, this is usually the part of the podcast where I say something really dumb or I just talk about something super off topic, but I do actually want to take this time today to give a shout out to one of our writers. And his name is Donnie Spees because we're doing high school team rankings. And when he first came to us, he had some work to do. We'll put it like that. And he just churned in some of the best writing that I've been given all summer. He has made a complete 180 in terms of his progress as a writer, and I'm really, really proud of him. So I wanted to give him a shout out. He still does that one thing that I don't like, Donnie, but you know what that is. But otherwise, he has been a really fantastic asset for us. And I just want to shout out someone who worked really hard to amend his writing in a really, really great way.
Absolutely. Yeah. Hey, I can't describe how hard it is to go from like writing academically to writing
TSR.
for TSR. I mean, it's fun and it's enjoyable, but it's just a very different type of writing. And
It's a
when
bear.
you're living in the high school, college, like just turning an assignment kind of world, and then you kind of have to separate out, it's very difficult. So for Donnie to be able to do that, I echo all your sentiments. But let's jump into it. Like we have so much to talk about. We are not going to be able to talk nearly about as much about everything that we have as we would like because there's just too much going on. We Before we get into that, we did get one Apple new rating. We're up to 93 there. So good progress
Thank
there.
you.
165 still on Spotify. So we're trending in the right direction on Apple, which is awesome. But with that said, why don't we start with what everybody in the world is watching right now, and that is the Olympics. And we got some collegiates in the mix at the Olympics that we've been watching. There's been some fantastic distance races. The track race, we're recording this Monday, August 5th. And yesterday was the 100-meter men's final, which
Mm,
was absolutely insane,
mm.
and I was really enjoying the 1500-meter semifinals before, and you know what, the 100 even topped that. So it's been a really exciting Olympics to watch. What has been like some of your big takeaways from the Olympics so far?
Um, Grant Fisher,
Yeah.
like, is man, it was so good. Like, I think you saw him like during the lead up to the season. You're like, he's really strong. Like, he is just aerobically great. He is sharp. Like, a powerful stride. He's great with the kick. Can do a little bit of everything. But then when you get kind of like in the mass mix of that 10K race, I always get a like, this has been done once in 56 years. For him to get bronze and barely, miss out on silver,
Yeah.
someone texted me. They're like, "Why am I emotional?" They're like, I have no like investment in Grant, and like I thought that was just a very good moment for America. And shout out to Grant Fisher. That was such an awesome race. It was cool.
Yeah, I mean, just the way he never you never were worried about him. Like he looked like he was so sharp
Yeah.
and fit, and
Hmm.
just like never really looked like he was gonna drop. He was responding to moves. Like it was really like I had never had so much confidence in a 10K US runner going into like the last couple of laps of being like he just looks fantastic. He
Hmm.
should medal. Like,
Yep.
and that is a crazy thing to be saying. He was absolutely fantastic. And Nico Young, I mean, just hanging in for as long as he did, I thought was
Impressive.
super impressive. I mean, and that kind of the way they finished, and I mean, running as fast as they did, it was
Yeah.
always going to be a tall order for him to be able to hang like into the last lap. But man, he really kept himself in that race a lot longer than I thought he would. So kudos to him.
Is it? I don't want to like get over my skis. I don't ever want to just be like overreactionary off the first thing that just happens. But from December, I guess let's just even say January of this year to now, has there ever been a collegiate that's had? I guess there has because I guess they've turned pro and And
Yeah.
so yeah, never. So maybe like it was Rono, right? So I'm sure there's other guys who have had sure national caliber success. He was just awesome, and it was great to see. He looks like someone where I'm just like, oh, the next lap he'll die, and the
Yeah.
next lap he'll die. He Every lap I'm like, I'm convinced that this is the lap where he will blow up, and he just doesn't. And 4 years to kind of fix and correct all that, he'll be dangerous for sure.
Yeah, yeah, no, I mean, he's going to, if he continues at this trajectory, he's going to be someone that is a staple in U.S. teams moving forward, which it should be fun to watch. Someone else, I mean, Juliette Whittaker,
Hmm.
it's incredible just to make the final is such an accomplishment. To finish seventh, even more so. I mean, she was it's incredible just to see her poise, the way she was able to finish races. I really has no right being here at this
Yeah,
stage of her career,
yeah,
and yet again, she's someone where you're surprised when she doesn't win every race that she's in at this point. Where it's
yeah.
just like, all right, well here she comes. She's in fourth place with 150 to go, and she's gonna move up, and she's gonna move up, and yep, oh wow, she only finished second. Okay, that's fine. Like it's really incredible to watch her consistency.
Yeah, and I think when you say like she has like no right to be here, I think what you're ultimately saying, because I just know people take that out of context.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think what you're ultimately saying is like she doesn't know that she's supposed to be this good, which we've said multiple times. She doesn't know that she's not supposed to be this good.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Which we've said multiple times before on this podcast, and that's kind of the exact same thing here. And you could see like in the semi round, I'm like, she's an underdog still. Like
Yeah.
let's call how it
Oh
is.
yeah.
She's still an underdog, and yet you could kind of just see her in that last 100 meters being
Yep.
like, I think I could do it. Oh my gosh, I could do it. And then she gets there and
And
runs 157.
yeah, and she could have taken the inside route too, and probably like more like run even faster. Like the way she ran, like all the way out into lane three to clear people. I mean, yeah, and yeah, she just the fact that she's so. I mean, she's just accomplished everything. I think faster than you would. I mean, she comes into the NCAA is immediately one of the top three best 800-meter women in the NCAA. Then, like right, almost 2 years later, right away, one of the best 800-meter runners in the country, in a country that is chock full of elite 800-meter runners. It's just,
And now
and
she's one
then
of the best in the world.
yeah, now yeah, one of the best in the world. I mean, it's just like we always talk about how progress isn't linear, but she has made it look pretty darn linear. Like it's just like, all right, check off one of the best in high school, one of the best in college, one of the best in the US, one of the best in the world. Like
I,
it's just insane.
I bet you she's looking at everyone and being like, yo, this is easy. Like, I mean, come on. It's just this. You just got to wait it out. Okay, sure. I'll do that. No problem. I want to transition off this and talk a little bit about that 100. I know we're a distance
Oh yeah.
podcast, but that 100 was so much fun. And all my, because I have friends like, because like around where I live is also around where Noah Lyles grew up and was
Right.
born, with the
Yeah,
high
yeah.
school, all that jazz. And so a lot of the people are like familiar with him around here, and they're like, is he favored? Can he do it? And the way that I put it was this: I think going into the 100, you could make the argument that he was probably the favorite. If he wasn't, he was maybe close to it. Like
Yeah.
if someone said that they liked him the most in that going into that race, I would have said, okay, sure. But I still would have taken the field over
Oh
him.
yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And I said, like, so I was like, if he wins the 100, then like the 200, like I don't think anyone's gonna touch him in the two.
No. And he ran the 100 like I mean the some of the group chats that I was in, particularly one with my in-laws, they were like just gushing about it and like obviously trying to talk to me about it because it's like, hey, you like track, right? And I'm like, he ran it like such a 200-meter runner, and yet he still won. Like,
Yeah,
that's like, and he looks like Bolt in that way. Like that's how Bolt would run. Like Bolt was a 200-meter runner. He would
yeah, he
just
was.
do enough out of the blocks and then finish like a runaway train, and that's exactly what Lyles did. I mean, the perfect timing of the lean and everything. It was, I mean, just and the fact that we didn't know who won for like
Also,
30
that's
seconds.
that's what I want to ask you. When they crossed the line,
I didn't
and
think he won.
the commentators like, so I did. I swear to
Oh,
God,
I
people are
didn't.
going to be like, he crosses the line, and the comment, oh, Thompson has won, and blah blah blah. I'm British, and I'm just like, wait, no, I could have sworn Noah maybe got him by like this much, or maybe they already have the live results. I was like, damn, okay, I guess. But it was I've literally never seen a race that close ever.
Yeah, I thought I thought Lyles like with like 10 meters to go. I was like, I think he might, but then like I was like, I don't think he quite got there,
Yeah,
and just the suspense for everyone was insane.
I thought it was odd that the commentators made such a convincing like he
Right.
won statement when I'm like,
You have no
there's
idea.
no way you could tell. So,
Yeah.
anything further? Women's 5K
No,
wrapped up.
I don't think so. I mean, yeah, it's been a fantastic Olympics. I am super excited about the 1500s on both the men and women's sides moving forward. The 5Ks are going to be really fun. Men's 800, like there's still so much. The marathons, like
The
it's going to
15
be,
finals.
yeah, it's going to be so exciting moving forward. So I'm sure we'll be able to talk about it again next week when we have a lot more distance races to go through. But with all that said, let's shift gears to the collegiate scene and let's talk about some news that we don't really have very often, and that is Peter Maru uh, of Arkansas, All American in the 5K this past winter, has been given a 3-year ban by the AIU, the Athletics Integrity Unit, for a doping violation. Not expected to come back to Arkansas anymore. Just like what an interesting career for Peter Maru, who just comes in the winter, does pretty well, and then has this happen.
Yeah. And by the way, the ban, like one coach told me, like they're not sure that even applies to NCAA.
Yeah, I
So
wondered if that was the case because that's like it's not
yeah,
professional. Like, although we're getting close to, as we talked
yeah, I
about
was
in our
gonna
last
say,
episode, we're getting close to there.
yeah. Yeah, I'm not still 100% sure on that. I'll have to double check, but I do believe the coach I was talking to. Yeah, here's the thing. Like, upon like him coming in, I was like, this guy's electric, super aggressive, like really fast times. I've run the 13:07 in Oslo, and then you hear this alleged doping, and I'm like, oh,
Hmm.
yeah, that makes perfect sense. Like, and I think it's just like a wake up call of like, hey, Cerrone was busted earlier this year. Who's to say,
Yep.
when did his antics start? And that was just actually a whereabouts violation. That was a very interesting story. But Maru of now getting sanctions. This happens, and I'm not saying it's like widespread or anything like that, but I think this is just a good reminder of like, hey, this happens. So
Yeah, I'm genuinely curious to know, yeah, to like what percent of athletes this is, and I agree, it's very. I would imagine it's very small, just because it's like the access, the money, the ability to be able to do a lot of these things is difficult. But yeah, I mean, in the since things are so competitive now, like to find the smallest bit of edge and like where there's money involved at this point, or even
and
just to
that's
run
it.
collegiately, like it is like if you're willing to if you're that, not, I don't want to say desperate, but like that motivated to get that, like some people are willing to cross those lines, and I think we're going to get to a point where that is something that the NCAA will have to consider more and more.
Yeah. I mean, let's think about it. So now these kids are coming over saying, not only can I get a free education, but I can also just get paid,
Yeah.
and like I just have to be a college athlete. Like if you're good enough, yeah. like internationals are going to flood in, and the coaches are going to want to go get the internationals.
Yep.
And so I'm not saying like I don't blame them, because I do blame them, but I at least understand like what the motivation could be moving forward. Like it is something that the NCAA might have to be like, hey, they might have to really ramp up some of the testing. Like it's
Yeah.
pretty crazy.
No, I I
But,
I, I agree. And yeah, I think that's going to be probably a topic that we're going to have to talk about more and more
yep,
over the next couple of years. Because yeah, we're getting to the point of things are being professionalized, and as we talked about last week, and this is what happens at the professional sport. People dope.
yep.
It's a reality. You're naive to think that a lot of people at the Olympics are not. Like it is what percent it is,
Well,
who knows? But
yeah, yeah. I don't want to make it sound like a heavy majority of the
no,
people in
and
the
that's what I'm saying.
Olympics
I'm
are.
not trying to say that like it's heavy, but people are like there's people at
I'm
the
sure there are
Olympics
some
that
people
are
there.
like
I'm sure there are some individuals.
absolutely.
Yes. Yeah.
And I don't know who they are, but like you can almost guarantee that there are some.
Yeah.
Um, all right, so yeah, Peter Maru. So he's no longer going to be with Arkansas team. Arkansas needs a replacement for Peter Maru. In steps Yaseen Abdalla, who comes in from Tennessee, has one season of eligibility in cross country and one in the indoor season. I think a perfect fit for both parties. We were struggling to find a really good spot for Abdallah, seeing as he did not have outdoor track eligibility. But for a program like Arkansas, obviously they wish that he had that outdoor eligibility. But for a program like them, who are going to be competing for indoor championships and are going to be competing at a highest level in cross country, he fits a lot of what they need. He can be someone that has the potential of scoring on the indoor oval and should be an All American this upcoming fall. He's going to fit really nicely into this loaded Arkansas lineup.
How close, like within how many points, do we think this Arkansas lineup is to Oklahoma State?
Okay, so what do we think Oklahoma State's scoring? Like 60 points?
What did they score last year?
Probably around that, right?
If you give me 2 seconds, I can find it out. But it was like what 48? I want to say. Was it? Does that sound right?
That's ridiculous.
Maybe I'm getting over the top. 49. It was 49.
That's wild. Less than 10
Yeah.
a runner.
And
Oh
so, and
man.
of that top five, they lose their number five, Alex Mayer.
Yeah.
Their replacement is probably Adiso Guedia, who was 50th, who we
Yeah.
do have ranked.
I mean, they're probably 50 points behind.
Really? Let's think about this. They got Yego, they got Kiprop, they
Yep.
got Abdallah, they got Shearer, they got Masai and Chesnin. That's six guys who could be an All American.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if they're all, I mean, if they have five guys that are all American, like they could still score 100 points. Like that's,
Sure, sure, but what do you, okay, how about this? I'll ask you this, and then you tell me whether you think they are more likely to be, let's say, in the top 25 or outside the top 25.
sure. Sure. Okay.
Okay. Yego,
I think slightly inside. Yeah. Slightly more
even
likely.
though even though he was like 13th last year.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Kiprop,
Yeah. Inside.
Abdallah,
Outside.
Shearer,
Outside.
uh, Chesenden,
Outside.
MSI
Yeah.
outside.
Outside. Yeah.
Um, okay. Yeah, I don't. Yeah,
I think the
I
thing is
guess.
I don't think they have anybody that's like if those top two guys like Diego and Kiprop are scoring like 5 points between the two of them, then it's like all right, this is something, or even 10 points between the two of them, which is a little bit more doable. I think there's a chance that they get to 100, but I think it's really hard to get less than 100 when you don't, when like you have your top two scoring, let's say 20 points, and then you got 3 spots to fill up that next 80, which is just certainly doable. But we just went through those 3 guys, and we don't think any of them are necessarily more likely to finish in the top 25.
Yeah, but I also think like Abdalla and Shearer could absolutely finish in the top
They
25.
could, they could, yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah. So
I won't disagree
frankly,
with that.
I think they all on a good day could finish top 25. I think that's
Sure.
unlikely,
Yeah,
but
yeah, yeah. I guess that's on a if everything runs, if they run well and everything kind of locks into place, kind of like what happened to Oklahoma State last year, then I think they could score. What do we think? 75 points. Like,
so Northern Arizona last year scored 71. Their team score well, I'll just go overall scoring. Overall scoring, they were 5, 6, 18, 21, 25.
yeah, I think that could happen.
Okay. Yeah.
I think that's their ceiling, though, right?
Well,
So
I
I mean,
think yeah, I think that's their ceiling, but also like let's also ask the question, how many points do we think Oklahoma State's going to score?
yeah, that's the thing. I mean, I don't think they're going to score any less. I think they're probably. I think 50 is probably 55 is probably where I put them.
Oh, you were saying okay when you said less. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. You think 55 is their cap?
I think no, I think like 50 might be like as low as they'll go. I think they could go higher because everything went perfect. Like you think
It
about
did.
like that race, it went exactly as planned. Like that's not going to happen. It almost certainly won't happen again. So I think they could end up scoring. They could have a solid race and score 65 points, which is still incredible. But it's going to be a lot lower or a lot higher than it was last year.
Okay. Okay. How about this? And you're only one of now three or four, three guys, four guys. Yeah, four guys, including myself, Finn, and Mike, who do the D1 rankings now. Who do you like more, Arkansas or BYU, for the second spot?
Mm. Arkansas, I think, has the higher ceiling. I trust BYU more,
Hmm.
but I think Arkansas just has enough depth at this point that they're not relying on just 5 guys. So I think I maybe actually lean Arkansas.
Interesting. Um, yeah, I mean, like I love BYU's projected top four.
Yeah.
We have to see who the five is. So, um, yeah, don't we got team rankings coming up. Everyone who's listening, don't take that as a sign of one way or the other. But because now we do have a couple people actually like really dive. Well, we've always had a couple people, but we have 4 people now diving into this. So, all right, what's next? Speaking of transfers, right?
Yep. We also saw a couple of former Tennessee runners follow their head coach Carlson to Colorado, and that includes Dean Casey, Chris Cherry, and Simon Kelati. So Kelati had obviously a very prestigious Tennessee career, spending about 0 months in Knoxville, and it'll now be headed back to Colorado, or the state of Colorado, which I'm sure he's probably content with. But I mean, these are huge pickups for Colorado, especially Casey. Like the amount of eligibility and potential that he has. He's a guy that can truly be part a sizable building block for this program moving
Yeah, because like the thing with Colorado is that like we didn't we did not like Colorado as a team, just to be blunt,
forward.
especially because I think they actually lose Vansel. So I think Vansel is gone. Yeah, and that was the big kicker. So, um, but they still had like a bunch of like depth pieces. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
They had like a good supporting cast. It's just it was there was never going to be like not I'm gonna say never, but there just probably weren't going to be enough pieces
right.
to be like a top 20 team or even maybe a top 25 team. Casey and Kelati and maybe some sense Chris Cherry kind of round out that squad and bring a little bit more firepower to a team that needed it, frankly.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Again, this is It's not bringing Dylan Jacobs to Tennessee from
Right.
Notre Dame, but it's pretty good, and it stabilizes the lineup for this year, and then also brings some potential guys that can be part of the next great Colorado team. So it's the guys that you would have hoped would be following Carlson for Colorado, and I think it's the exact right mix of guys. Wouldn't be surprised if we saw another guy or two come in as well, like not necessarily from Tennessee, but some other guys come in to fully round out this lineup. And I'm sure I would be surprised if we didn't see the same from the women's side at Tennessee. A few other women transfer to Colorado as well.
I don't know. I
You
don't
don't think
know
so?
if I mean, I think at this point, because we're recording this, what, Sunday, August 5th?
Yeah, it's getting late in the game.
It's getting late. And if you're going to make the move, you're going to make it now. And we haven't heard anything. Like, I thought
Yep.
Ashley Jones would be the first one over there
Right.
because she's a Colorado native. And I don't. I don't know. I would so I don't know. Maybe it's just take care of the men first, then get the women in. Whatever. Um, but I don't know. I think right now Tennessee. I'm surprised they're not over there yet. So.
Yep. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Well, speaking of Tennessee, they did need to hire a new coach after Carlson left,
Mhm.
and they have decided to go with Justin Duncan, formerly of Oklahoma State. He was the assistant there and is now the new cross country head coach, which I thought was interesting to see what they labeled him
Mhm.
as. That was kind of the first thing I looked at in the press release. I thought that might be the case, and they do go with head coach there of the cross country program at Tennessee. I can't truthfully can't tell you exactly what Duncan's contributions were to the national championship team in terms of what he was impacting rather than uh, Coach Smith. But if you're going to hire from a program and hire from someone who has learned under a particular coach, picking from Dave Smith in Oklahoma State, you could do a lot worse from. And I think this makes a lot of sense for both parties. Duncan gets the opportunity to run his own program, and Tennessee, I think this is the kind of the mold of the coach that I thought they would go under. Someone who's had a lot of success at a big program and is now hopefully going to be an emerging star as a head coach.
Yeah. If they weren't going to go already after like an established coach who's already like a head coach, if they were that effectively means that they were going to go after like an assistant distance coach, which is what Duncan was. He was the
Yeah.
assistant distance coach under Dave Smith. But if they were going to go that route, then Duncan was easily one of the three or five, names that I could have picked and said like, oh, he's most likely, he's most likely, he's most likely. I just, are you surprised that they didn't go for someone maybe a little more established?
No, I mean, I think when we talked about this last week or 2 weeks ago, I think I said Jared Cornfield as my name,
Yeah.
and that was that's kind of the mold that I thought, and Duncan's someone that fits that. I guess I mean Tennessee is an athletic program that does like to make the big splash. Obviously, they did
Right.
that with Carlson, but I think there's only so many times you can go to that well. It's an expensive well to go to, and there's only so many coaches like that you can lure. And so I think that was always going to be a little bit of a harder move compared to hiring someone like the from the assistant ranks.
Okay. Fair enough. I think we're in the same boat, but yeah, that's it. That's all I have on that. Let's move to
Okay,
rankings.
awesome. So yeah, let's go to individual rankings. A couple weeks ago, we talked about I think 41 through 50, the just missed honorable mention. We have the rest of our list to kind of go through and talk about. So, like, I say we just start at the top here. We have our 1 through 40. So I'm curious, what was the hardest in your mind, like discussion within like the top five for both the men and women. We can start with the men because I think for me it was like who do you put at one? Honestly, I think was like the biggest like conversation.
Yeah. I thought there was enough. Yeah, I thought there was enough for blanks to be number one, and
Yeah,
I just go ahead.
yeah, I agree. I think there's compelling argument though that you could have made for Samuel or Wolf. Like I think both of those guys there's a argument for it. The way Blanks obviously ran his last cross country season, the way he kind of finished out his spring, I think ultimately I think makes him deserving of it. But I did think long and hard, especially about Wolf, considering the way he finished out his spring.
Well, for me, thought process was this: Graham Blanks was undefeated throughout last fall, and was
Yep.
the national title winner. Pure cross country, he is the best cross country runner in the NCAA.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, the injury and the setbacks, that's where things get a little dicey. And then you pair that with Wolf's reintroduction, not reintroduction, his the surge, this massive
Yeah.
boost in his fitness, and it begins to get like a little bit more of a conversation. But the fact that Blanks rebounded so well and as effectively as he did, specifically at the trials,
Yeah.
that made me say, okay, no, this guy's still either at or going to be at a peak level by the time the fall rolls around. And well, now he gets the peak for the Olympics. So I'm still very very high on Blanks being one, and I felt pretty good about it.
Yeah, I think isn't that funny? Like I think that those trials races is kind of what in my mind pushed it over the top. Like
Yeah.
I think I would have been a lot more compelled to put Wolf there if I didn't see those trials performances from Blanks.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely the case. I think if Blanks, like, I don't know, runs NCAA's but doesn't, like, just opts out of the trials for whatever reason, then you could have convinced me Wolf is the top
Yeah.
option. So
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Which yeah, I mean, it's fascinating. We don't normally see that. Um, all right, on the women's side, I think that the most interesting conversation here was where do we put Pamela Kosgei?
mhm.
And were you of the opinion of this is a little high, this is a little low? Like, where what were you thinking when like going into the ranking process with her?
It felt, as I was writing it, a little bit generous in retrospect.
Yeah,
I was like, this felt a little generous. It's a little nice, like, she's not proven in the NCAA, but she has run and beaten some really impressive names. The steeplechase marks that she's run at altitude convert to the NCAA record. Um, she's run what, 15, whatever. I don't even know. Maybe she hasn't even run the 5K. I just felt like this is just going to be Hilda and Doris all over again. Like, she's the sister of Bridget Kosgei, who's like this star marathon
yeah,
caliber at the pro level. I just struggle to believe that she's not one of the three or four or five best women by the time the cross country ends. I mean, it's just she checks off every box for as much as you can for an international, at least.
yeah. Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, and I think it's instructive just to think about like what Lemon Gold just did, and I mean how the season that she had, and for Cos to come in with great marks, like very similar level of fitness and ability. Clearly, it wouldn't be shocking to see her run right next to Lemon Gold. So I think with all that that you feel a little bit more comfortable after seeing kind of what Lemon Gold did. But yeah, I mean, this is the world we're living in where it's like you come into the NCAA. I mean, Hepton Samuel was like that last year too, and you're like right away, all right, you're a top 5 runner in the country,
Mhm.
and like these rankings are already hard enough. When you're having to insert just someone we've never seen before into this high of like a spot, it is extraordinarily.
Yeah, yeah, it's very very challenging. So yeah, I wasn't happy. I just want to point out though that the storyline that's going to be like really fun to watch is, you know, Hilda and Doors were once teammates, now arch rivals fighting for the individual national title. Check it out on the StroudReport.com. No, like that's basically what I feel like this narrative is going to be this fall.
Oh
Um,
man. Yeah, and I'm sure they are have nothing but love and
and they're probably
admiration
great
between the two.
friends. They're
So
yeah,
yeah,
probably yeah.
exactly. All right.
um,
So switching back to the men's side, who are you we talked about irrationally high a couple weeks ago, but who did you feel like you fought for to get a higher ranking out of
oh,
this top
good
40?
question. Who did I fight for? um, who did I fight for? I don't know. Do you have an answer for this?
Yeah, I actually have two, so
Oh,
I can riff for a little while.
okay. So can I
Hey,
guess? Can I guess who the
yes,
two
go ahead.
were?
Yeah, yeah.
Um, one of them is Casey Klinger, I think.
Yes,
Like
absolutely.
yes. Um, the other
The other
is
one I didn't. Yeah, no,
Rocky
you're right.
Hansen.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yep,
Okay. Cool.
absolutely.
There
There
we
you
go.
go. I was gonna give you a little bit more hint on the Hanson one, but yeah, you nailed it. So yeah, Casey Klinger, I think he's kind of a forgotten man in a lot of ways. We didn't see him really last year all that often, and we forget just the level of consistency that he provides on the grass, and like just how good he is. He's always up there with the leaders in every single race, whether it's the pre-nats, whether it's Nuttycombe, whether it's nationals, like whatever race, he's right there with the leaders. Now, he's not someone that is normally going to outkick someone for the win in a lot of cases, but he's always right there. And that has led to just a host of top 5, top 10 finishes at the highest level of meets. And I mean, I feel like there was little bit of a sense in our rankings initially. It was like, oh, maybe NCAA's passed him by a little bit in some ways. And I don't think that's the case. He ran some solid track times this last spring. And I truly wouldn't be surprised if he ended up being a top 5 finisher at this year's national meet. I think that that is in the cards. Now, would I ever pick him to seriously challenge for the win? I don't really believe that, but
Yeah.
I do think he's someone that is going to be in that lead pack with a mile to go.
Um, Klinger with a mile to go.
Yeah, I think with a mile. Yeah, I think a mile to go.
Uh, yeah,
Maybe
yeah,
a mile and
okay,
a half, maybe
yeah.
2K. I don't
There you go.
know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I guess it just I don't know. I just feel like at this point, Hampton and Blanks and Wolf are just
Yeah, they might just go,
so
but
much better.
I feel like I mean this is going to be his senior year. Like I wonder if he just goes for it. And maybe
Have we
he
gone over
can't.
this? Have we gone over this? Do you know how many years he's been in the NCAA?
Uh, well, I mean, are we
Well,
counting
I
like the
mean,
first year? Like
well, we are. I mean, let me phrase it this way. Do you know how many years it's been,
since he started in the NCAA?
including since he started in the NCAA? Right.
It would have been was it 2016? It was the year after I started, I think, right? So it would have been this will be his 8th year.
Eighth year. Yeah,
Yeah.
pretty wild. He's experienced. Like you're going to get a high floor on him. Like I'll tell you that. So, um,
And then Rocky
but
Hansen, I can't quit him after some of
yeah,
those early season performances. I've fully bought in. Obviously injury kind of derailed the end of his cross country season, so we didn't get to see him at the national meet. But I just think he is a grinder, and in a era where we're just going to be seeing some really fast from the gun cross country races, I think he will thrive in that environment and be able to hang in there when a lot of other guys just can't.
yeah. I became increasingly more like backed. Um, I was increasing. I was backing Rocky Hansen more and more the more like I researched and like kind of wrote it out and like
Yeah.
there really isn't an argument against him. Yeah, you can say, well, he hasn't been the national meet. He was injured last year. That's not really a great sign. Okay, but then he just still made it to the outdoor national meet in the 5K despite
Yep.
that setback. Like, it's not like it was just one great race. It was two great races at two of the biggest meets other than the national meet.
Yep.
So I would agree with you there. I am going to say that I fought for. Oh, I just had it. Florian Lepellic. Did I already go over him
No, no,
in the last
that's a good
podcast?
name to put in there.
Florian Lepellic and Butler. I like him a lot. I think he's aerobically better when he moves up to 10K. I think his national meet performance last fall, which was still okay, it was like 50, 60 something. I don't know. Um, was really, really solid. Like, I think he's better than that. Like, he was top, what, 10 or top 13, something at the Virginia invite. Um, like, he has a really, really strong moments and promise. And I just can't quit him. I believe he's an all-American talent.
Sure.
He did not crack our top 40, but he's close.
Yep.
And so I'm just a big Lepellic fan because I also think he's exactly what Butler needs for an upcoming season that I am extremely high on them
You
for.
are very high on them.
And guess what? And a lot of guess what? The writers are just as high on it, not just as high, but they're all close to as high than you are. Okay, they're more they're with me. They're closer to my end
Yeah,
than yours
yeah.
are.
I don't know if it was a little sticker shock at first for me. But yeah, I mean they have a good roster. It's in a year where I'm not very convinced of many teams outside of
Right,
like the
right.
top six.
Mm-mm.
It is certainly possible that they could exceed expectation. Certainly my expectations. On the women's side, and I'll give you a moment to come up with a name or two here. I really think that Amy Bunnage is someone that I'm kind of keeping an eye on.
Mm,
Of someone that I wasn't a part of, obviously the women's rankings quite as much, and but I think I probably would have pushed for her to be a little bit higher. I think she showed flashes. There wasn't a ton of consistency across her entire year. Again, this is her first year in the NCAA. Obviously, came in with great times. And I think she proved that that talent is there and she can compete at the highest level when everything is going right. And in a second year, a little bit more experience, I think we could see her break out in a significant way.
um, I'm not quite as high on Bunnage. Um, I did think that she deserved a slightly higher spot, but in terms of trying to reconcile arguments with the
Right.
women's team,
Yeah, yeah.
I had to do that. But my name is Leah Stevens of NC State. I just think she's awesome. Like fourth at Joe Piani last fall, 14th at Nuttycombe, and then eighth at the ACC championships. When 43rd at the national meet is like an off day for you,
Yeah.
that's a very good problem to have. And yes, she did not race after the Penn relays this past spring, where she ran 13:09 and she ran 15:50 in the 5K beforehand. Um, so
Wait,
like
sorry. What did she run at the Penn relays?
33:09.
Okay, I thought you said 13:09. I was like,
I
wait a
might
second.
have said that. I might have said that. Wyatt, keep it in. Keep that in, Wyatt. I might have said that. I don't know, but yeah, I just think that where we have her, like I kind of needed to fight for her a little bit because one or two of the writers were like, I was like, I'm not budging. If you want X, I need to keep Stevens here. It's basically a compromise. So,
Well, and I don't know if it's just me that feels this way, and this is a wrong feeling. I will admit it, but it just feels like she has flown under the radar in terms of just being like one of the possibly the next great like NC State runner. Like she was so
mhm,
good as a freshman, and like I just don't. For me, it didn't even like I didn't come into the rankings of being like, oh, okay, we need to have her really high, um, despite having a fantastic opening freshman year. Like, I mean, again, like I'm very high on Rocky Hansen. What Leah Stevens did was not that different. Like,
mm-mm,
it's pretty darn similar, and yet I don't have that same kind of passion to like in like forecasting such like huge seasons for her. And I think that's wrong. Like she should be seen as someone that is like one of the next great stars in the NCAA over the next couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, I do too. It's just it's recency bias, right? Because
Yeah.
Grace Hartman was so strong on the track and such a like a present name all the time. Um, whereas Stevens did not race on the indoor oval and then had half of an outdoor track season. So
Yeah. Yeah. That's fair point. All right, let's switch back to the men's side. Who do you think out of the men that we ranked in the top 40, who is going to make who has the potential to make us look the dumbest one way or the other, up or down?
that's a good question. Um, I'm gonna say Dismas Courier of Alabama.
Yeah. Oh man.
His his times on paper are good. It's like 1350s, 2830s, like it's good. But they were running at altitude. And that means that his 10K converts to like 2720s, I think, which is insane.
Yeah.
It's something ridiculous. And so where we have him is like, mm, I'm not exactly thrilled. I'm just very
Right.
scared. The problem is that like you just don't know with some of these guys. You have no idea. Um, yeah, he scares me a lot.
Yeah, I think he's the prototypical like kind of guy that comes in. We don't really haven't seen him in the NCAA, has good times, but could go one of two ways pretty significantly. And so I think he's absolutely someone that I think we all felt very uncomfortable ranking. Like we had
Um, Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
no,
Let me cut you off.
that was it. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, so real quick, I did want to point this out though. So why I felt like okay when I was writing it is because he ran in a cross country race, actually like a Kenyan XC Championships,
Sure.
where he placed 40th, which we're like we don't exactly know how good that is. But in that same race was Middle Tennessee State's Brian Kiptoo,
Mm,
who's 20 spots better. And I think Kiptoo's a good name. I
yeah.
don't think he's a top 50 name.
No.
Now, granted, he may have just had like an awkward national meet and just couldn't run well, but that's the comparison where I go, okay, we'll you know we'll try to put him just inside the top 50.
Yeah. For me, the name I had was Evan Jenkins. I I don't know how I feel about him going into this year. He's obviously had some good results. 10th at Pac-12s. Last year was ninth at the West Regional. Had very poor performances at the two big meets before that at Cowboy Jamboree and Virginia Invitational. Had some good track performances that should line up to something pretty good in cross country 13:38, 28:04, the 5K, 10K, respectively. But and so like that could indicate that hey, he's ready to kick on. He's going to be better than maybe what I expect. But I also am just looking at those cross country results and being like, oh man, this could go poorly for us. So I think, and he's a really important piece for Washington.
Yeah, he
They
is.
need him to be good.
Yeah,
Um,
especially because I don't
otherwise,
think. Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
otherwise they just don't have the kind of guys to be able to really replicate what he can do at his best.
Yeah, I apologize. I'm cutting you off a lot this podcast. No, I think people don't realize that Iverson doesn't have eligibility
Yeah.
for fall, which is I got to double check that, but I'm pretty sure he doesn't have cross country
No, I don't think
eligibility.
so.
So, also, by the way, was the question top 40 or inside the
Y
did
Inside
I
the
listen
top
through?
40.
All right, well then my answer is just not correct. So
You're
I
fine.
I probably would have done the same thing though. I probably would have said the same guy. So
Yeah. All right, on the women's side, inside the top 40, who do you think has the potential to make us look dumb?
um Ali Upshaw.
Interesting, why?
Because we know what her ceiling is. and her ceiling
Yeah.
is 12th at Nuttycombe, and that's very scary. 50 something at nationals is a not it's not great.
Mhm.
She only had 2, like, legitimately competitive meets that she contested last year, and so I think where we have her is, like, a good middle ground of trying to figure out, like, well, what's the proper spot, but also, like, her Nuttycombe result says, like, she's a top 20 name.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. And I feel like the NAU women in general, like it's hard because they have shown some brilliant moments, and you could make a pretty compelling argument for several of them within like a higher range than we have them ranked. Um, but it does seem like you said, there's that national performance where you don't feel comfortable ranking someone that high when they weren't even an All American in the year
Yeah.
before.
Yeah, be tough.
No, for me, I'm gonna go with Melissa Riggins. I just am obviously fantastic indoor outdoor season as primarily a middle distance runner. Had a very good fall. 13th at Virginia, 15th at Nuttycombe, DNF'd at NCAA's. I mean, the reason why I think she could make us look this ranking could make us look dumb is I think she could go like 15 spots worse than where we have her and 15 spots better. Like I think there's I mean there's truly a world where she could be a top 15 name, and I don't think that's crazy. Like I mean you look at those performances at the biggest regular season meets, and she was in the top 15 in both of those. Like I think that tells you that that capability is out there. Now she didn't finish at nationals last year, and is a like more of a middle distance runner. So like when you're getting up to the 6K with pushing the pace a little bit harder, does that affect her a little bit more than maybe a 5K 10K runner? I don't know. Which I mean, maybe that's why we need to have her a little bit further back, and maybe she doesn't finish as an All American. But I do think there's certainly high and low potential with her when it comes to the NCAA meet.
I think I'm higher. I think she has a higher floor than maybe you're
Okay.
giving her
Yeah,
credit for.
maybe.
Yeah, I think the DNF, someone told me that she was ill. I don't know if that's
Okay.
true, but I think she was, which would explain it. And so, I mean, really, because outside of that, her season was really solid.
Very good. Yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah.
you mentioned, 2 top 15 finishes at major meets. She was consistent throughout, throughout the track seasons, and she also ran like in the 850s or something for 3K, which is
852.
usually good.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so I think there's a higher floor. I agree that the ceiling could be like way better than what
Yeah.
we have it projected to be, but yeah, I do think her floor is higher. So
Yeah. Yeah, no, and that's fair. I mean, I'm very high on her, so it's not
yeah.
I'm not going to necessarily disagree with that. I do think it is interesting with some of these 1500-meter runners where it's like at the NCAA meet, is it a little bit of a different kind of race for them compared to some of the maybe more longer distance runners? All right. Do you have? Is there anything you wanted to highlight? Like I know we're kind of wrapping up here. Is there any other
Mm,
men, women spots in the rankings that we should cover?
no, no. Make them go to the site and subscribe. Okay, that's what we're gonna do. You can go check out the rest of it. We have those now up. We have D2 and D3 rankings now up. We have high school team rankings coming. We have NAIA individuals coming. That should, in theory, all be out by the time this episode comes out. And then team ranking starts like, in the next actually couple days. Um, Terrified of what that's going to entail. So yeah, watch out for that. Get ready for that. The team rankings are probably the best. I know we say our summer rankings are
Yeah.
the best, but the team rankings are probably the best piece of content that we do. So, um, Ben, that's all I've really got though.
All right. Well, until next week, I'll talk to you, Garrett.
I'll talk to you.